Families, thank you so much for joining us for Parent University. We are so excited to host the summer slide for ELA and math, really targeting those K through 6 students. And you have two of the best leaders in our district who have a ton of experience with learner services and curriculum. And I'm excited to introduce them to you tonight. We have Dr. Shannon Ivy and Katie Snyder. Both of them are coordinators for learner services. Shannon Ivy is the elementary ELA coordinator and Katie is the elementary math coordinator. So without further ado, I'm going to turn the show over to them. Thank you, ladies, so much for being here tonight. We appreciate you.
Thank you, Miss Ashley.
You bet.
All right. So we are, again, appreciative of your time that you're taking to be able to look into different ways that you can help your students stay fresh over the summer. And of course, we want our kids to have fun and to just enjoy life, but we can do this in ways that are going to help our students be able to retain some of the information and the skills that they've learned and even extend it where possible. So we're going to start with the ELA portion first. And we wanted to give a review of the main standards that students are responsible for knowing from kindergarten through 6th grade. As you might imagine, what a kindergartner standard would look like is going to be a little more on the simple side and expected to be done with adult assistance quite a bit at first. And then as they grow and advance throughout the grade levels, those skills are still there, those expectations, but they're going to grow in complexity. And then also the expectation is that they're, of course, going to gain independence in how they're working with these skills. So foundational knowledge in terms of language skills is going to be important K through 6. Obviously, comprehension skills, the ability to respond both verbally and in writing to stimuli that they have, whether it's read or written or just discussed, and then skills in multiple genres. This is just meaning that we're wanting to be able to apply our language skills and our English skills with poems that they read or informational texts that they might read, or just plain for fun books as well. Author's purpose and craft is a huge strand that actually begins in kindergarten, again with adult assistance, but it is one that is really kind of tough for students to gain confidence with. And to utilize. But we'll talk a little bit more about that in just a little bit. But for your knowledge, author's purpose is just going to be having a deeper understanding of why something was written or read and what that intent. Like, for instance, the author might choose different perspectives to write in, but they probably have a reason for that. Or if they're doing an informational text, they would want to use transition words in a particular way. So all those ideas kind of come together for author's purpose and craft. And then we have writing skills or composition skills that are super important as well. And then finally, inquiry and research skills. So all 7 of those are strands that you will see throughout the expectations as students learn and grow in K through 6. All right. So Katie is operating our PowerPoint train for us, which we appreciate. So just in terms of those 7 skills, we wanted to break those down into larger buckets or more focused buckets. And so if we were to do that, we would break those down into 3 categories, being foundational skills, writing skills, and then thinking critically about reading. So when looking at foundational skills for the primary learners, that's going to be exactly what you might think in terms of getting familiar with our letter knowledge, our letter sounds, and being able to apply what we call phonemic awareness within their writing and their word play. And there are lots of fun ways that students can do that with manipulatives, and they do that in the classroom in small group settings often. But spelling is an important part of foundational skills, handwriting, and then, of course, typing practice is more important as the students get a little bit older. Vocabulary is definitely a research-based area that we are really trying to develop with students, in that we know that students can attach meaning and retain their information, such as over the summer when they haven't been at school as frequently, if they're very familiar with that background knowledge, and they can gain background knowledge from going places and talking about vocabulary that might have come up in those adventures, whether it be to a museum or at a park, arboretum, things like that. And then we have oral language, which is really just developing the discussion skills that students have, being able to articulate their thinking, because we know that if you can think it, you can say it, and then ultimately we want the students to know that they can write it as well. Which leads us to the next bucket, writing. And writing can stay fresh with our kiddos over this summer in lots of ways, whether they're smaller or older students. There are obviously opportunities for them to write in real life settings all the time, such as checklists, or even a little happy note or note of encouragement to brother or sister. Little people, maybe older people too, but especially the little people, you'll see them with the pretend play, and we mimic that in school a lot. For instance, they might be writing a menu or taking orders, or just finding a doctor's office, writing a prescription. So there are lots of ways to make things fun for the kids to still be able to practice those skills in some form or fashion. Journal entries for those older students, or even the young ones who you feel like can handle that. And then reflections about experiences. So even if you go feed the ducks, that would be a great opportunity. If you have a little person, it would be a great time for you to talk about what happened when you fed the ducks. And maybe you, as the adult, if your student's not ready, you could dictate out a sentence or two about what happened there. If your students are older or could handle that more, you might release some of that responsibility, or all of the responsibility, for writing about the reflections to them. And then finally, thinking critically about their reading. So anytime students are reading in books, and ideally the students would stay fresh with their reading by reading independently, pretty frequently over the summer. That would be fantastic, whether it's a bedtime routine or early morning routine, or just take a 15-minute brain break routine and snuggle up with a good book. But the thoughts and the questions that come to their heads while they're reading these books are so important. And if they could write those down on sticky notes and then stick them within the pages, that would be great. Katie, if you will click on that author's purpose worksheet. This might be more appropriate for some of the upper elementary students, but it could be done, of course, with younger ones as well. But this goes back to that author's purpose, and you can have a copy, like hard copies of these things as well. But to walk students through, okay, what is the importance or significance as to why that author might have chosen this setting or this perspective to write this story. And even if they don't answer all the questions, maybe they could just choose two, or on Tuesday, I'm going to choose one of these to respond to what was the author's purpose. Or they could do all. Thank you, Miss Katie. And then on this next screen, we just wanted to give you some links to, again, paper copies that we can provide for you as well. But some of these are geared towards the younger students, as the title says, beginner reader and writing. And this is an ABC ARC, and it is one of those research-based ways. It comes from the Texas Reading Academies, but it's a research-based way to gain fluency. Thanks, Katie. There are other examples of this, but I'm just asking Katie to stop there. But this ARC obviously can be used in lots of different ways, and there are directions that go with it, but it helps practice dictionary skills, ABC order. You might be able to, if you had magnetic letters, you could pull the letters and build words. There's the Spanish version as well. Or if you want to, thanks, Katie. If you stop at this one, then you can say, okay, I have the letter R. Show me or write on the alphabet where this might go. And so it just kind of gives kids a visual way to attach where they're thinking of in terms of ABC order with letters. And of course, I would encourage the students to also say the sound of the letter as they're going. Thank you. And then, how many words can you make? Okay, well, actually, let me back up to the Elkonin boxes. These are so fun, and probably used with their teachers in many ways, but you can do this at home too. In fact, we have copies for you. But this is where you, again, probably geared towards more of the younger readers. But if they're really trying to figure out and remember the sounds that they're that are within words, they can take buttons or dots or whatever and push up the sound each time you say a word. So for instance, if I have 3 boxes, I might look at the word cat. And so I would say to yours, we just saw a cat in the street. Let's think about the sounds that go with this word cat. What do you hear first? Yep, I hear k too. So you would push up either a button in that first box for k, and then what sound do you hear next? Ah, right. I hear that too. Goes the second one, and then at the end goes the third one. Or you could write the letters in the boxes. That's what teachers often do, especially for the students who are more adept with their letters and sounds. So, and then you blend it together. So, cat spells cat. So there are directions that go with this as well, but that's one fun way. You can use markers or expo markers or just plain letters as well. So I'm going to continue on. These are other links that we don't have to necessarily go into right now, but the typing fluency is one that whether your student might need some practice, that's a fun way to keep them engaged over the summer too, because it's game-like. This is a free typing site that many of them might be familiar with in their schools, but it's good to stay fluent and to continue practicing. The word unscramble, that's just plain fun to, Katie, do you mind? Yeah, thank you. That's just plain fun because, well, in my opinion, it is. You could use it to, this is one example, any sort of summer word or whatever type of word theme you're going for. And then they can look at those letters and just play around with, okay, well, if I change around these letters and sounds, I could make this word. So there are lots of fun ways to use unscramble. You could use a very long word like arboretum and write out arboretum and think, okay, we just went there. So what are some words we can make out of the long word arboretum? And they could make the word or tum. Not that that's a real good word, but you know what I mean? You can break it down. Okay, thank you, Miss Katie. So we'll move on to the next slide, but just know that those resources are there for you to look at. And there is an emphasis on evidence-based practices in terms of literacy, K through 6. And again, little people are going to need more support with this, but it can look like a lot of assistance with adult as needed. For instance, if we were reading an Amelia Bedelia book, she gets mixed up all the time. So there goes Katie with an example. As the parent, I could have a sentence stem written if my student can handle it. And I could say an example of Amelia getting mixed up is, because we want to bring all of their thinking back to evidence from the text or what supports the reason why they said that. So you can see the underline, she is getting confused when she puts the light bulbs outside. And so you could talk about it or have your child go back and flip to the page and say, look, it's right here where she gets mixed up and misunderstands what she's supposed to do when she takes the light bulb out. If your student can handle the whole sentence, writing it, great. You can extend it or ask for other ways that they would find evidence from a book such as Amelia Bedelia to support their answer. Or you could just dictate what they tell you. If your student is not ready to write the sentence themselves or that's too stressful, take out the stress. Just talk to them about it, because truly the idea is that, we're not meaning to make students have to work hard over the summer. We're trying to take out the stress and just help them realize I can do this. Oh, I'm thinking this. And look, that helps me with my critical thinking and literacy. So, okay, I'll move on more quickly into the middle grades for evidence-based, and that could be done through procedural writing. There's an organizer there that would be provided if you would like it, and it's just a step by step. And remember, this is like the similar PB&J thing where you would have to talk through what goes first, next, and then afterwards. But the idea here, to make it extra fun, of course, is that the student or you or together would have to just follow the steps that they say or that they write, and then hopefully it works out. If not, they could go back and adjust what steps they needed to say next. And then finally, for the upper grades, comparing and contrasting is huge. A fun way to do this, if you'll click on that similarities and differences. This is one example. You might find two pictures or see two billboards, right, on the freeway. When you're driving down the road, you see two pictures and have them either write it or even just speak it. Okay, what are differences about those two pictures that we might see, or what are similarities? And just the fact that your student or child is going through that process of comparing or contrasting and articulating their thoughts, that's keeping their brain fresh for the summer. Thank you, Katie. And then underneath you can, but you can hot link these, or these are hot links so that you would have an example of just one graphic organizer to use. We've probably all used Venn diagrams, but they're still popular, still research-based, and you see them all the time. Okay, so moving on. You're doing great, Katie. Thank you. I'll go through these very quickly, but reading comprehension is important in all grades. Of course, the questions that you're going to be checking with the students in the younger grades are going to be more, they can be more complex, but a lot of times they're going to be maybe pulling surface level details out until the students are ready to have prompted critical thinking. RCRR is a fantastic strategy that you might use, and this is simply what it says right here. But you take a small portion, you have your student cover just one paragraph of what they're reading. They cover it so they can't see it, and then they think about, okay, I just read, and they just process in their mind. I just read about sea creatures and what they eat, and then you just have to remember details. What can you tell me about what I just read? And then they speak or form sentences. They can write it. They can just plain say it of things that they just read about. Organizers, again, we don't need to do that necessarily that hot link there. It's for you. You can get it if you want it. But cartoons, just take the fun, just make it fun and have them be able to take a little snippet of what they just read and illustrate it. Puppet popsicle sticks, or even acting it out. Those are all ways that represent that they have digested the information of what they've read and put it into their own words, or demonstrated their understanding. And then finally, summarizing is a great detail, but that's where we're going to take those chunks of what the information was. Think about keywords that would still relay the information that's needed, and then put those into sentence form. All right, thank you. Just briefly, these are links, of course, to our Allen Public Library that has fantastic reading programs, story times, all that business. But we would encourage you to sign up for their summer reading program. This games hyperlink, if you're willing to, thank you, Katie. This is so fun for the little people too, but it's just extra phonics practice, phonemic awareness, and just getting fun ways, video games to help them stay fresh with their letter sounds and thinking. And then this is a goal sheet if you want to log how many books your child has read, because hopefully you're remembering that independent reading would be ideal over the summer. And then they could rate, of course, what they thought of the text they just read. And then finally with writing, it's going to be back to that encouragement of being able to type fluently, because when students don't have to struggle with finding the right letters and pecking, it takes that pressure off, and they can focus more on getting the message across that they want to. Spelling, yes, is important, but they can work through that and get their message out of there. You could also have prompts to write about in journals, or you could build a story by maybe family members taking a turn each day to add a sentence to what it is that they were wanting to write about, or roll a set of dice. And if you roll a 6, you'd have to write a sentence with 6 words. And that would be an example. All right. Thank you, Katie. And in case you wanted to see some of these strategies that we referenced in action, these are YouTube videos. They are not Allen ISD employees, but they give you a good brief example of what you can do with those resources that are included there, including the ABC ARC, Elkonin boxes, and then just an idea of making as many words as possible. So thank you, thank you, audience, but also thank you, Miss Katie, for driving the bus there. And we are ready for math. Katie, I am so sorry for this interruption. I don't know if it's me, operator error, but I cannot hear you, and I'm hoping everybody else could hear you. Can you just double check your settings, please?
I can't hear her either. I was wondering if it was just me as well.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, sorry. Let's try that again. Okay, for math summer work, it should really focus on number sense and thinking like a mathematician, not on pre-teaching for the next grade level. So when I'm talking about number sense, I mean, when a student looks at the number 8, they should see that that's 2 groups of 4, that it's 2 times 4, that it's 2 less than 10, really being able to look at a number in multiple ways. A big number is 10. 10 is crucial for place value skills. A student needs to be able to see 10 as 5 and 5 and 6 and 4 and 9 and 1. That's going to help them when they get to addition and subtraction, particularly in 2nd grade when they have multi-digit addition and subtraction with regrouping. The understanding of 10 also helps when they understand like 10 groups of 10 is 100. That's a place value skill. So really reinforcing number sense. I know it's tempting sometimes to really move on to the next concept in math, but I was helping an Algebra 2 student the other day, and he was factoring a number. It was something like x to the third plus 4x squared plus 100 plus 25. Well, if he was able to see those factors of 125, it made processing the next step in that factoring so much easier than if he was stuck thinking, 125, what do those have in common? So really reinforcing that number sense is going to help your kids later on in middle school and high school math. So how to practice mathematical thinking? You can play games with your kids and you can help them find the math in the real world. This is one of my favorite quotes. It's by Dan Finkel, and it says, "What books are to reading, play is to mathematics." So when you think about you're taking your student to the library to do summer reading, think about playing games with them to support their math. You can play card games and board games, do puzzles and logic games. So a big piece of supporting your kids with this is let them do the work. Only give them hints, don't give them the answer. Let them solve the puzzle. Let them keep the scores. Also play along and make it fun. The next few slides are going to have some details that you can use to walk you through how to play games with your kids. So I'm just going to summarize them. This has a list of different games. Dominoes. Dominoes builds number sense so much in students. Checkers, Yahtzee. There's great math and keeping score in Yahtzee, and Monopoly. Kids don't get enough practice with money. Money is so crucial to them understanding how numbers go together. This has some strategies for you to talk through board games and card games. Ask your kids how the score might change if they made a different move. Ask them why they chose to make that move. Have discussions as you're working through the games. Some of you guys are going to spend a lot of time in the car this summer. Maybe you're going on a road trip. Maybe you're just really busy. You have lots of sports. Utilize that time in the car to come up with some different games. This one gives you a license plate idea where you can, for littles, you could just have them find the number 8. Who can find a license plate with the number 8? For your older kids, you can have them find a certain sum. You could have them do different kinds of math things with that. Maybe they find odds, maybe they find evens. Let them explore, but it'll give you some fun in the car and it'll help get them off the devices and engage them in the whole family conversation. And don't forget to play with them. Here's a game you can play at the beach or at the pool. You can put numbers on a beach ball and just toss the ball around, and whichever finger, if they land on a number, they can add those, subtract them, multiply, divide them. The little kids, they can just say the number and maybe count up to it or count back from it. You don't even have to be at the beach. You could play this in your backyard with a beach ball. And dice, just grab a few, some dice and you can play some of these dice games. That's something you can do anywhere. So I was raised by a math teacher and she taught me to look for math everywhere. So I want you to try to incorporate math into your daily activities and raise little mathematicians. As you're going through life, just think about and point out the math. When you're playing sports with your kids, have them keep score. The Olympics are going to be on this summer. There's so much math in the Olympics. There's comparing and ordering decimals. There's scores. Just watch the Olympics with them and talk about the numbers that you see. For your older kids, like 6th grade and on, they can come up with averages. They can talk about batting averages and all different statistics that you see in sports. Take them shopping with you. Give them a budget. Talk about, for the little kids, let them count money. They don't get to count money enough. Give them some actual money or some play money. Let them count it. Let them make change. When you go out to eat, talk about, well, what kind of things could we buy for $40? What's something like really silly, like a silly food combination you can come up with for a certain amount of money? You could also, for your 3rd and 4th graders, you could have them come up with how to divide the bill a few different ways. For your 6th graders, they could find tax, they could find tip. You can do a lot when you're going out to eat. And have some conversations with them. Pull them into some of the budgeting. Maybe you give them menus of different restaurants and say, hey, you have this much money as a family. We want to go out to eat. Which restaurant should we go to and what could we get? Road trips. If anyone's going on a road trip this summer, talk about mileage, talk about distance, talk about time, all those types of measurement. Maybe even talk about, what's the cost benefit of taking the tollway versus going the long way? You can use road signs. I love this road sign. You're going to see things with fractions. This is Fowler Avenue versus Temperance Avenue. You can have the discussion, which exit are we going to get to first? How far apart are they? Makes me think of the Buc-ee's exit signs that are all over the place. How far away is that? Are you going to make it? Like, do we need to take a different exit? Talk about exits and distances. I also have a ruler on there. Ruler skills, measurement, that's huge for fractions. And fraction concepts are huge for algebra. And algebra is crucial to graduate high school. So measure, measure, measure. I was thinking the other day that you could have your kids maybe like trace their feet at the beginning of the summer and measure how long and how wide they are. Then maybe they could write a little story about something they're excited about for the upcoming summer, or maybe something they learned during the school year that they're proud of. And at the end of the summer, in the middle of the summer, have them remeasure their feet and then maybe write a poem about something that they learned or something they experienced. So you can incorporate writing and measurement. Let them do maybe a measurement scavenger hunt, maybe go on a hike and look for things that are less than 3 inches long. or greater than 5 inches. Let them find things in your house to measure. Let them redesign their bedroom or talk about how much paint would go on the wall if you're painting. But measure, measure, measure. When you're cooking, let them be messy. Let them measure the half cup. Let them measure the 1/3 cup of oil. Let them experience what that looks like and how those measurements feel. What's more, what's less. Talk about all of those things. If you have middle elementary students, you can talk about doubling and halving recipes. For 6th graders, you can look at ingredients and what percentage of the recipe is a certain ingredient, or talk about proportions, really pull in those skills. Find math in the real world. I was going to tell this story about my daughter, who not only was raised by a math teacher, but her grandmother's a math teacher. And we were getting out of the car the other day and walking to a doctor's appointment. And she said, I wonder how many steps it's going to take for us to get from our car to the door. So we made a little estimate. Then we walked halfway. And I said, okay, if we've made 36 steps and we're halfway, should we adjust our estimate? She decided if hers was right or wrong. I estimated too high, so I brought mine down. But just incorporate it in your daily life, walking to the library, walking to the pool. Think about those estimates that you could make. So I want you to take just a moment. We're going to see if the technology works for me. And I want you to type in the comments something that you notice or wonder about these bugs. Think if you can think of any math question that you could think of. Oh, it's working. Yay. How many legs are there in total? That's fabulous. So that one could be counting, but it could also be multiplication if they notice like several of them have the same number of legs. I could wonder what has more, the top row or the bottom row? Or maybe even for your 6th graders, you could talk percent. What percent of the bugs are colorful? Or for your 3rd and 4th graders or 5th graders, what fraction of the bugs are colorful? So I've linked in some links right here that are going to give you images and help you practice thinking about math in the real world. So remember I said talk about it in your daily life. So here's some ideas to do with cooking and baking. Do we need more or less flour? How much sugar do we need? Questions like that. How long should it stay in the oven? So it's going to give you some question prompts that you could print this out. We're going to send it home with you, but you could print it out and just have it out in your kitchen and think through some of these questions. Ideas for analyzing sports. It's a big sports summer with the Olympics, so really take advantage of that. The Olympics is always exciting as a math teacher. Okay, this one talks about taking a field trip. I've linked in some free virtual field trips as well as some math lessons that you could use at different museums, but you could even talk about the price of going somewhere, like the Heard Museum. If we go there once versus getting the membership, like how many times would we have to go to make the membership worth it? I know the new recreation facility, you could talk about, okay, we plan to go once a week. Is it worth us getting a membership, or should we just pay for once a week with our family? So include them in some of these budgeting ideas and budgeting decisions. They're going to have to make those as adults. So train them on how to have those conversations and think mathematically as kids. Take a hike, get some exercise, look for geometry in the real world. Talk about the angles of branches or leaves. You could take a protractor or a ruler and measure things. You could do collections. This one's putting math on the menu. These are ideas for you when you go to a restaurant. I really love this bottom one where it says issue a challenge to find the weirdest combination of menu items that totals $36. I think that's kind of fun because sometimes there's things on there that they don't really want to eat. Track goals. So if your student has a goal, maybe they want to, my daughter's a softball player. Maybe she wants to hit more softballs. Maybe they want to practice the piano, but come up with some goals and have them track their progress. So like Shannon talked about with reading, math has different concepts for each grade level. And remember, I want to reiterate that we really need to go deeper with number sense. It's going to help them later on. If they can mentally do the calculations, if they have flexibility with numbers, it's going to keep their brains from having to think so hard about the computations and being able to focus on the multiple steps when they get to that harder level math. So spending a lot of time on number sense is going to pay off in the future. When we're thinking about different grade level concepts, kindergarten, it's basic numbers, reading, writing, counting, comparing, and they start a little bit of basic addition and subtraction. In first grade, it's skip counting. It's going to be heavy addition, subtraction, up to 20. They're going to still be using manipulatives and objects. In second grade, you get to multi-digit addition and subtraction. They need to have their addition and subtraction facts down in second grade. That's a huge grade level for that. Comparing and ordering numbers, and they're working a lot on place value. Third grade, they start multiplication and division basic facts, and they're reinforcing all of their addition subtraction facts. They're also getting further along in place value. Fourth grade's big one is long division. It's also the understanding of fractions, comparing fractions, and relating decimals to fractions. Fifth grade, it's all operations with fractions and decimals. And all the facts are important at that time. Fifth grade is like the culmination of kinder through fourth grade. So fifth grade's a really big grade level for them. In sixth grade, it's going to start algebra. So they're going to be doing integers. They're going to be doing fraction, decimal, percents. They're going to work with proportions and equations. Okay, so that's kind of all the information we have for you. So this is the part where we have questions. So you can type in questions in the chat. We also are going to put in a link that's going to let you request resources. So that's going to come in the chat as well. So you're going to see Shannon has loaded the form so you can request resources. We can also share this presentation with you. Shannon, can you pull the presentation link?
Well, yes, but I think that it goes out. Somebody had asked if it was going to be shared, and this person had said that both the recording and the link to the presentation would be shared in a few days.
Awesome. Okay, so all of that's going to be shared in a few days. Okay, so put in the chat if you have any questions, and we really appreciate you joining us tonight and taking the time to learn more about how to support your students. And don't forget to have fun. Have fun with them this summer. Help them to view learning as fun. Help them to view themselves as mathematicians, that they can do it. You'd be surprised how much students can learn from you just saying you can do it versus math. Like if you tell them math is really hard and you're not going to be good at it, or I'm not good at it, really sends a message. But tell them that they might struggle, but they're going to learn it and they just haven't figured it out yet. But they can do it.
Well, Katie and Shannon, thank you guys so much for hosting tonight. You guys were amazing. I know that my two bigs are off to middle school and to the high school next year, but I'm listening to everything for our almost 10-month-old that will be going through all of this in the next couple of years. So yay!
Well,
This was really great information. And as you guys said, everyone, we will get the presentation and the link to the actual recording to you here within the next couple of days. We work with our communications team to get all of that up and posted. So we appreciate all of you for tuning in and hope you have a great rest of your evening.
thank you so much.